So over the years, folks have been calling for an addition or two to our list of 7 national heroes. So what makes a hero a hero? A political and social psychology professor at the University of the West Indies, Mona, Dr. Christopher Charles, is on Zoom to help us better understand the topic. Dr. Charles, welcome to Smile Jamaica once again, sir. I hope all is well with you.
Good morning. I'm very tired, but I'm pushing along.
Well, I'm happy that you found time to speak with us this morning. What's the criteria for a national hero?
Well, I've never seen one in Jamaica. And even with the clamoring, I've never seen one. My understanding of the process is that someone who has contributed significantly to nation building. And so it's a nation builder. Usually the national heroes are the founders of nations and so on. But there are usually competing narratives as to who is a national hero. So in our case, we have some national heroes. We have one female, and the males dominate in terms of the focus, in terms of who's revered by the establishment and who's revered by the people and so on. So a national hero is who contributed significantly to the building and the creation of the nation state.
Dr. Charles, is a part of the problem with this discussion the fact that we don't have criteria, or that we don't have a specific document, policy document, something to guide us to say, this is who this person ought to be? Because if we say it's a nation builder, we could put 1,000 people on that list.
When it's a nation builder, it is time sensitive. It has to think about it in a particular context. The creation of the nation, the founding of Jamaica as a nation state, as an independent state. But even that itself is problematic because that would exclude...
We couldn't have nobody else.
No, that would exclude Paul Bogle because they were not around in the independence movement in that sense, right? Because Jamaica was still a colony. You would exclude Sam Sharpe and so on. So the criteria that is publicized is very important, saying that we don't have criteria. I've never seen it. And so, for example, there are competing narratives as to who should be a national hero. If you take the two most popular ones, promulgated by the two political parties, Alexander Bustamante and Norman Washington Manley, the creators of the two major political parties, and they were involved in the independence negotiation. There are competing narratives. In 1938, when the workers rose up in Jamaica, the Afrocentric perspective says these people co-opted the labor movement. They never mobilized the workers before the protest in any significant way. But given their social location and their closeness to the establishment, they were able to co-opt the nationalist movement. Secondly, when the Moyne Commission came, they were not expecting universal adult suffrage. As a matter of, when Moyne, the head of the commission, announced that there would be universal adult suffrage, Bustamante and Manley were shocked because they were not expecting it. So the workers rose up and the Afrocentric perspective said these two leaders co-opted. Then they formed the political parties. So one is not saying that they didn't do anything, but there was no struggle. As for example, in Zimbabwe, the ZANU-PF, led by Robert Mugabe, went into the bush, or a Southwest African People's Organization, as in Namibia, who fought, and so on. So we negotiated our independence. It was actually given to us, and we negotiated the terms because the murderous British, as I like to call them, when they plundered and robbed, and they had nothing more to take from us, we were costing them money, they decided to give us independence, and then we negotiated the terms. And our independence leaders, we kept all the laws, all the institutions. And so, for example, laws like loitering, using indecent language, laws against Obi and so on were created specifically to control Afro-Jamaicans during the colonial period.
Sorry to jump in, Dr. Charles. I'm reading here, and it says, according to the Jamaica Information Service, the honor of the Order of National Hero may be conferred upon any person who was born in Jamaica or is, or at the time of his or her death, was a citizen of Jamaica and rendered to Jamaica service of a most distinguished nature. That suggests that you have to be dead.
Well, I mean,
Before you
well, that is kind of problematic because when you give a foreigner the status of national heritage, that is a given. And distinguished national service, what is defined? It's vague, it's ambiguous. So for example, so if you look at the two most prominent leaders, they came, or the one that are celebrated the most, Bustamante and Manley. They were leaders, right? If I say it this way, before 1962, we were not a country, but more so a colony. We were subjects of British, and so if you use that alone, before we got independent status, the leaders before, the Nanny, the Simon Sharpe, the Paul Bogers, where would they fall? Would they meet the criteria of distinguished service? Because the British didn't consider them to be distinguished. So I'm just saying that the criteria is vague. And the society, because of the divided Jamaica, have different notions of who is a national or who should be. That is why among some segments, you have people for Miss Lou and Bob Marley.
Right, which is where I actually wanted to take the discussion now. What are your thoughts on expanding the list of 7 and your thoughts on the names that have been put forward?
You mean the 2 I called?
Yes, and we were talking about one more this morning in the person of Usain Bolt.
Okay, all right. So performers and athletes, when we make them national heroes, it's really, and I love them. I love the 3 of them. I mean, Miss Lou is my favorite. When you think about it, if you have achieved, if you have done, if you're a world-class performer in music as Bob is, in folklore as Bob was, and folklore as Miss Lou was, and Usain Bolt, I've never seen anything like that before. What is the criteria? So I'm somewhat uncomfortable when we have built the nation, we are struggling to run it properly, a good job. And so if you do well in sport, if you do well in music, if you do well in theater and the arts, you can be a hero. So what are we saying? But these people are very distinguished Jamaicans and the people love them.
What about
and they should be celebrated. But
some folks also...
What criteria are we using?
Some folks also said Michael Manley.
That is political. There were some good programs in the 1970s. I benefited from them. Many Jamaicans benefited, but there are also some problems. And after you create the nation, it's very strange that you still want to have heroes as you go along. Right? So we are preoccupied with naming and titles rather than doing great things.
Does that mean that you're suggesting that there should not be any more national heroes? Is that what you're suggesting?
I don't think so. To what end?
No, that's what you're saying, that there shouldn't be any more.
I'm saying no. To what end?
To the end where I guess folks feel like they can work hard enough to try to make as big a difference as some of these folks have, with the hope that perhaps one day, I don't know. I mean, aspiring to be a hero is not like aspiring to be a rocket scientist. It's a big deal. But is it that we're saying that nobody else's contribution could be considered so significant
the issue
that
is we'll never stop, because we're always going to have Jamaicans who are going to just be super in their field of endeavor, and we're always going to be proud of them. So when will we stop? Where will we stop?
I understand that. I mentioned earlier to Simone that in Barbados, Sir Garfield Sobers was made a national hero, the only living one. I'm not asking you to think for the Barbadians, but you wouldn't think that should happen overall?
You mean Garfield Sobers?
Yeah. Well,
you mean
no
a
Sir
world-class, world-renowned cricketer
Yeah.
that delighted me in my childhood.
Yeah.
Well, if the Bajans want to do that, that's their right. And if the Jamaicans want to do that, that's their right.
Yeah, but
I'm just saying that
Yeah.
I don't think that if you do well in your profession, right, after independence, that you should be made a national hero.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough.
I hear you say, where would we stop? I guess my question would be, and maybe the person who's trying to play advocate on the other side, I won't even call it devil because we're not dealing with devil. Why should we stop? If there's somebody who's worthy, why should we stop?
Okay. Having national symbols, they are very important. But in Jamaica, we are preoccupied with symbols and style rather than substance. I would prefer to have no national hero. And Jamaica today was a first world country. So we have these symbols and we get excited about them, but we're very poor in governance.
Mm-hmm. I hear your point, Doc.
So we are preoccupied with the wrong things.
I hear your point.
If the people want to go ahead and make the gong and Miss Lou national hero, so be it. But I'm just saying that in adding more, and then if you think about the criteria, look at Nanny, who I call Mama Nanny. In the 1970s, the women, some women's groups in Jamaica approached the Prime Minister to say, we want a female, or we don't have any woman as a heroine. So we want a female. And Michael Manley approached some academics at UWI, and they did their research and deliberated and advised Michael Manley that Nanny of the Maroons should be a national heroine. I have no problem with Nanny. I'm just saying the reason for that was because there was no woman. And that's how the process was. We didn't have any woman, a female heroine. So it triggered that. So when we talk about national criteria, we need established criteria on which we can agree. And I'm not saying woman and it should not be on the list. I'm just, if you look at the process, you will see that in terms of contribution, there's wide variation between the people who are heroes, and wide variation in terms of contribution.
Okay.
And the time period differs as well.
Yep.
And we're not settled on what the criteria should be.
I appreciate your thoughts this morning, sir. Thank you so much, and hopefully you'll get some rest now. You told us that you were tired, so get some rest today. And thanks again for being with us.
All right, thank you.
God bless. Political and social psychology professor at UWI, Dr. Christopher Charles. By the way, just reading a story out of the New York Times. He's called Colin Powell. Died this morning at age 84, and it says complications with COVID. That's what it says. He's the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Secretary of State, National Security Advisor, and Jamaican. You said he wasn't born here. I think that's what.
Not sure if he was born as Jamaican heritage. It's easily checkable,
but we understand that he passed this morning at age 84. So condolences to the family of. We would say Colin, but in the United States they call him Colin Powell.
He was born in New York.
He was born in New York. There you go. So again, condolences to his family. Soon come. Stay with us, please.